Surprise, surprise. LSU has its full-time AD. We'll react to it, and we've got an update on the football coaching search. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. And welcome to all of those watching us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network every single weekday. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. Well, I was getting off my radio show at 6 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, and I got a phone call that Verge Ausberry had been appointed the full-time athletic director at LSU, dropping the interim tag. Now, that is not official yet from LSU. I have reported it. We have reported it at LouisianaSports.net, and it is a done deal. Verge Ausberry is the full-time athletic director. A formal release will come out here in the coming days. The other interesting layer here is that announcement at about 6 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday was less than 2 hours after I spoke to Verge Ausberry on my radio show with the first interview that Verge gave subsequent to being named the interim AD in that press conference on Friday. So what we're going to do in this episode today, coming up in a bit, I'm going to update you on the LSU coaching search. That was the point of the interview that I did with Verge Ausberry. We talked about Nick Saban, which you're going to hear a lot of detail about the Nick Saban rumors from Verge Ausberry. The timeline to have a new coach in place, if having head coaching experience is a prerequisite, what this process is like right now, all of that stuff. You're going to hear from Verge in a minute from the interview, the exclusive interview I did one-on-one with him on my radio show after further review on Tuesday. But we obviously have breaking news. I mean, Verge is the full-time athletic director now, replacing Scott Woodward. So I have to react to that. It's where we'll start today. I want to be very clear. Not that I would ever lie to you. I'll always be honest with you. I'll give you my opinion, as if you have to worry about that. I hated to see Scott Woodward go. And we all know at this point what happened. Governor Landry there have been wholesale and sweeping changes, not just at LSU, but throughout state government. He is getting people in place that he wants. And unfortunately, Scott Woodward was a casualty. I hate it. Scott's a great athletic director, a very well-respected athletics administrator, and I think that is a loss for LSU. I've been very clear about that. But what's done is done. They mutually agreed to part ways. We'll find out in due time about his buyout or whatever the case may be. But what that did was create more instability. Remember, you didn't have a full-time university president after William Tate left for Rutgers, who was forced out by Jeff Landry, which is a good thing, by the way. I don't think William Tate was a good university president, just my opinion. We don't need to get too deep into that. But so you had an interim university president. You'd fired your head coach, and now your athletic director had parted ways. So you did not have permanent leadership in place. And at a time when you're trying to hire a football coach, that's a really tough thing to do. Like, it doesn't matter what you do professionally. Think about whatever it is you do professionally. Like if you're an accountant, if you're a foreman, if you're a radio host, if you're a lawyer, a plumber, a doctor, a welder, a pipe fitter, whatever you do, sales guy, whatever you do professionally, you want to know who your boss is. Like if your boss leaves, there's going to be some uneasiness because you don't know who you work for and what the expectations are going to be, how that'll change your job and all that sort of stuff. It's no different with a football coach. It's at least people's jobs. Like you want to know who your boss is. Are you going to have resources? Are you going to have support? Are they going to micromanage? It's all those sort of things. It's no different in this job. So LSU not having a university president or an athletic director in place would, in theory, make looking for a head coach very difficult, which is why I said on Friday it was so important for LSU. The most important thing to come out of that press conference was the announcement from Scott Ballard, the president of the Board of Supervisors, that Verge Ausberry had the authority to hire a football coach. That was the most important thing. So when Verge called an agent, that agent knows this guy has the authority to hire my client. That was so critically important. But even still, if Verge doesn't get the job full time, the client doesn't know who their boss is going to be. So it was so interesting, the timing, because on Tuesday, LSU, the Board of Supervisors, selected Dr. Wade Rousse as the new president of the LSU system. Now, this was about as big a surprise as the sun coming up today. This was Jeff Landry's handpicked guy. He's the president at McNeese. He wanted the gig. It was what the board was going to do, the bidding of the governor. Governor wanted Rousse. It was always going to be Rousse. It would have been a massive surprise if it was anyone other than Wade Rousse. But on Tuesday, they formally announced Wade Rousse as the new president of the LSU system, which gives him autonomy in turn to then hire a new athletic director. And as I understand it, Wade Rousse, just hours after he was confirmed by the LSU Board of Supervisors, removed the interim tag from Verge Ausberry and made him the full-time athletic director. And I want, with that context, I want to play this soundbite for you. So this was Verge Ausberry on my radio show on After Further Review on 104.5 ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge, syndicated throughout Louisiana. And I asked Verge about the process, kind of like, and keep in mind, okay, just to be very clear, I am perfectly fine with promoting Verge Ausberry. From New Iberia, played 4 years at LSU, 4-year letter winner, has been in LSU's athletic administration for 30 years, has been part of 4 football head coaching searches. I mean, literally across all the different sports, both revenue and non-revenue sports, been parts of dozens of search committees. He has seen everything there is to see within the LSU athletic department over 3 decades. This is perfectly, not only perfectly fine, great. If you wanted to go out and hire someone with AD experience like Josh Brooks at Georgia, fine. That would have been amazing. I have no reservations whatsoever about Verge Ausberry's ability to hire a coach and run this athletic department. I am 100% on board with this. This soundbite from Verge, baked in here, you're going to hear it. I'm going to play it for you. I'm going to come back and explain. But baked into this soundbite from Verge, when I asked him, again, this was before we knew the interim tag was dropped. I interviewed him at 4:00 Central Time on Tuesday. Sometime in the 5 o'clock hour, so Wade Rousse was confirmed. They had a party for him at Tiger Stadium in the 5 o'clock hour. So about an hour after Verge and I spoke is when this interim tag was dropped. Okay. So anyway, I asked Verge about the process. If he could just shine a little light on the process. Like, how does this all play out? Are you taking calls? Are you calling people? Is it sort of passive? Or people calling you? Just shed some light on the process. And I'm curious if you catch the line from Verge that I did. Listen.
You making calls 24/7. You picking up your phone every chance you get. There's agents calling, there's representative of coaches calling, and you're just trying to talk to them to gauge their interest. Where are they? You know, a lot of times they want to talk to me personally to get that feel about who I'm going to be working for. Is Verge Ausberry going to be the AD, the interim AD? We don't know. But they want to know who they're talking to and who they're communicating with, and the agent wants to know that. They're not going to put their clients out there and there's no person they can report to. So that's the important part of this here, and that's what we're trying to make people feel comfortable with, in the position I'm in, and those opportunities will come later. But right now, we want to hire the right person, and that's why it's so important to hire the president. But it's a long process, and we start the process. Matt, we start this process. When you hire a coach, you automatically start looking for your next coach. You hope your coach stays here 20 years. But you have to make sure that you're doing what's right, because you never know what could happen in our business. And you watch a lot of football, you watch a lot of sporting events and say, you know what? It's like, that guy's a great coach. He does some great things. They win. But you also got to make sure to look at it and say, is that coach a great fit for us here? And I think that's what we have to do our due diligence on and make sure that we're looking at that a little deeper.
Did you catch it? It was right in the middle of that bite when Verge said the coaches want to know, who am I going to work for? Is it Verge Ausberry? Is the interim AD? The agents are not going to put their client out there without knowing who they're going to report to. So listen, I think that the press conference on Friday, Verge coming on my radio show on Tuesday, they're putting out there a very positive message that people are interested in LSU. It's a great job, and you're showing alignment and unity. The bottom line is, as much as you want to purport that, it wasn't real. You didn't have a university president hired until Tuesday. And even if Verge Ausberry has the authority to hire a coach, that coach doesn't know who he's going to work for. And Verge said it. Agents are not going to put their client out there with knowing who they're going to report to. You had to hire an AD. Before you could hire a football coach, you had to hire an AD. And before you hired an AD, you had to hire a university president, because ultimately the AD works for the president. So all of these things make sense. You can't hire a coach without having an AD. You can't have an AD without a university president. And they tried to go out of order to do the best they can to patch it. And this was a mess made by losing to A&M, firing Brian Kelly, the governor using that as an open door to run Scott Woodward out, and it left LSU in a mess. And they had to act quickly, and they did. You got Wade Rousse confirmed as the new president. He very quickly removed the interim tab to make Verge the athletic director. Now you have your full-time president, and you have your full-time athletic director. Now, whoever you're looking at to be the next head coach knows who they're going to work for, which gives you authority and autonomy to go make the best hire. So, what constitutes the best hire? We're going to get to that. And I did happen to ask Verge Ausberry about Nick Saban as well. You're going to hear that next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps the game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And today's show is brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU athletics. I love telling you about Our Lady of the Lake. As a matter of fact, I was watching the NFL on Sunday. TV commercial pops up. There's LSU defensive end Jack Pyburn doing an NIL deal with Our Lady of the Lake. You see, there is no greater benefactor of LSU athletics than Our Lady of the Lake. And yes, they have made an incredible financial commitment to LSU athletics. That much is certain. As a corporate partner, as the championship health partner of LSU athletics, through amazing NIL deals with Garrett Nussmeier and Harold Perkins, and as I just mentioned, Jack Pyburn and Bauer Sharp, and so many others across every sport. And of course, the commitment to the naming rights of the new LSU arena whenever that new basketball arena is built. There's nobody that supported LSU athletics more, but it's so much more than just supporting LSU athletics. They have the contract for the Student Health Center for the LSU students on campus, and the many different specialty cares, from the regional medical center to cancer care to stroke, heart health, pediatrics. I told you our story. Just on Tuesday night of this week, Monday night of this week, my wife and I presented at an organization, Our Family Story, for the Epilepsy Alliance of Louisiana, and our friends from Our Lady of the Lake were there and were a part. Their physicians, their neurologists were there as a part of that whole presentation, and I love the partnership with Our Lady of the Lake. They are championship health partners of LSU athletics and for everyday champions like you and me. Learn more at ololrmc.com/LSU. ololrmc.com/LSU. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, together we roar. Okay, I'm going to get into exactly what Verge Ausberry said they are looking for in a head coach. Some of the particulars. We're going to get into nitty gritty here in a second. But first, there have been so many questions and comments and reports and rumors about Nick Saban. There have been reportedly agreements on contracts. There have been terms that we've seen out there. Shaq, we did a previous episode. Shout out to our everydayers who listened to that one. Shaq said he heard through the grapevine that LSU was talking to Nick Saban. Well, now you're going to hear it from the horse's mouth. LSU's interim athletic director at the time of this interview, who is now LSU's full-time athletic director, Verge Ausberry. I asked him point blank, have you been talking to Nick Saban?
With Nick Saban.
Nick Saban and I have a standing conversation probably every 2 to 3 weeks. We're good friends, first of all, and a person that I admire a lot. And Coach Saban was joking, no way he's coming back to football, okay? Miss Terry's not going to let him. So That's not going to happen. Let's get that out the way soon, because if he was and he was interested, I'll go drive down there and pick him up right now and bring him back.
Okay, wait. So, wait, Verge, you're saying no shot?
I think that is run its course. Okay.
Okay.
But he works for ESPN now, and he does consulting with people and talk to people. You get to see things out there, and he gets to tell you about different coaches he see and observe. So I ask him questions about what it takes to coach the LSU job, and I always ask him that. And times have changed since the time he's been here. He didn't have all the different things that we have now. That's why he kept saying about the infrastructure, what we have here, what we have set up here. You don't win just because you're LSU. You have to win because you're doing the right things and the right things in place, the right mechanisms, the right infrastructure. I keep hitting on those words because that's what's important, the right people in the system. And then the coach has to be the one to have the right fit when he's here. Does he fit with the players? Does he fit with the culture down here? At LSU, we have many constituents. You have faculty, you have staff, you have students, you have alumni, you have boosters, you have donors, you have NIL donors, you have corporate sponsors, you have 340-some organizations on this campus. So you have to fit some kind of way in all of that, not including the Baton Rouge and Louisiana community. So that coach has to be the right fit for this program. All these coaches could coach X's and O's. They could draw it up, they could call plays, they could do all of that. But are they the right fit for the institution? And are they the right fit at LSU?
I think there's two takeaways that I had from what Verge just said there. First and foremost, Verge Ausberry just told you that he and Nick Saban speak every 2-3 weeks. A standing conversation. They've been friends for 30 years. Remember, Verge worked hand in hand with Scott Woodward back 25 years ago when Nick was hired at LSU. My goodness, does that lend you a tremendous amount of credibility, right? When you can say that 20 years after Nick Saban left LSU, remember Nick Saban was the coach here for 5 seasons, left for the Miami Dolphins. After his time in Miami, went back into the college game at Alabama, where he was there for nearly 2 decades. And through all of that, Verge and Nick have a relationship from those 5 years, that brief moment in time, a quarter century ago, that they still talk every 2 to 3 weeks. Standing conversation. What an incredible amount of credibility that lends Verge Ausberry. Number one. And it speaks to one of the reasons why I am so on board with hiring Verge full time. He has all the connections. He's done this for 30 years. He's been on coaching searches. He's been in budget meetings. He's been around the campus. Hell, he played for the team. Yes, of course Verge can do this job. But it's a huge part there that he can pick up the phone. And the other thing is consulting with Nick Saban. So who do you think, if Verge calls Nick Saban and says, Nick, what do you think? Who do you think Nick Saban's going to recommend? Remember a couple weeks back on College Game Day when Miss Terry talked about their baby coaches, Kirby and Lane? Well, Kirby ain't leaving Georgia. Lane Kiffin's at Ole Miss. You think Lane Kiffin would leave Ole Miss for LSU? I don't know if he will, to be very clear. I'm not going to sit here definitively and say he will. But if Nick Saban says that's the guy, And oh, by the way, Lane's agent's Jimmy Sexton, who also happens to be Nick Saban's agent. If you don't think they're at least going to till that soil and go down that road, you are crazy. Because if that's the guy Nick Saban is saying you should go after him, and Verge and Nick talk every 2 to 3 weeks, and you consult with the greatest coach of all time, and he says go hire Lane Kiffin, you don't think they're going to try to make it happen? And you don't think Lane will call Nick and say, should I take that job? And what's Nick going to tell him? You can win a championship at LSU, all the resources, the passion of the people, the state, the talent rich, all that stuff, it's aligned. The alignment is there. Oh, and by the way, if there's one thing that maybe works in LSU's favor, not having Scott Woodward in place. 4 years ago when LSU was hiring a coach, Lane, I've told you this before, Lane Kiffin desperately wanted to leave Ole Miss for either LSU or Florida. Better job, especially 4 years ago. And neither LSU or Florida interviewed Lane Kiffin. Now, at the time, Scott Woodward was the AD. I don't think that sat well with Kiffin at the time. Scott Woodward's no longer the AD. Verge Ausberry is. I think Lane Kiffin's more likely to listen to Verge than Scott. I still think Scott's an outstanding athletic director. But specifically, as it pertains to Lane Kiffin, it probably suits LSU better to have a change. If you're going to get in the mix for Lane Kiffin. So what are they looking for in a head coach? Verge Ausberry answered 3 very important questions. You'll hear those answers next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Okay, I want to move quickly. 3 things that I want to check the box as we sort of give you some info on how this search is going. Number 1, on Friday, Verge Ausberry said he was forming a committee for the coaching search, and he named Scott Ballard and John Carmouche from the Board of Supervisors. He mentioned Ben Bordelon, who played at LSU, 2 sons are on the team now, and is the CEO of Bollinger Shipyards. Independently wealthy, massively successful businessman with ties to LSU. And then E.J. Kuiper, the president and CEO of FMOL, which, full disclosure, of course, is the health system of which Our Lady of the Lake, our great partner, is part of that health system. But Verge mentioned there would be a 5th member of the committee. And so I asked him if that 5th member of the committee was, in fact, Dr. Wade Rousse, who we now know is the new president of LSU.
He'll be that consultant, yes. That's what we were waiting for, the president to be hired. And that's who we kind of wanted to have in there to make sure he helps us. He needs to be a part of it. Every football search I've been a part of, the president has been involved. President or the chancellor, depending. Back then it was the chancellor, but now the president has been involved with it in every major search. And especially the football search, that search is huge. It's $200 million to the Baton Rouge to the LSU athletic department, and about $700 million to the Baton Rouge economy. So it means so much to this institution, the whole LSU brand, that it's important. I would like him to be a part of it.
By the way, I did follow up and ask if he mentioned the chancellor in the past, because LSU hired a president and a chancellor. First time they've split the role since 2012. If the new chancellor would be involved. And he said, no, the chancellor handled the academic side of LSU. It would be Dr. Rousse, who will be part of the committee. Now, I also asked Verge if head coaching experience is a prerequisite for the LSU job.
You know, in our process right now, Matt, we're wide open, but we would like someone to have head coaching experience. Even if he's not a head coach now, have the experience. You know, LSU, like I said, it's a hard job. It's a 2-hand on 18-wheeler job. You take your eyes off the road, you take your hands off the wheel, you'll flip it over. So it's something about managing people. You're managing over 140 people in that building, the head football coach at LSU, not including all the players, 135 players. So you're running a mini organization. My job is I run the corporation as athletic director, but there's many small corporations underneath you. And football is one of them. But football is a major corporation underneath you because bottom line, it's 89 and 90% of our budget. And that's why it's so important because it funds everything we do in athletics. And that's why we have hiccups, we have bumps and bruises. But we got to come out of it. And that's why football is so important.
You prefer head coaching experience, but not a prerequisite, if I understand correctly. Okay.
Correct.
So I think it's very important. And remember, Georgia hired Kirby Smart. Before that, Mark Richt, coordinators. Oregon hired Dan Lanning, no head coaching experience. Oklahoma hired Bob Stoops, Lincoln Riley, Brent Venables, no head coaching experience. Ohio State, Ryan Day, no head coaching experience. Michigan, Sharon Moore, no head coaching experience. You don't have to have head coaching experience as long as you get the right guy. And that is the charge that Verge has here to go find the right guy. And one more, I asked Verge about the timeline. In particular, would you be willing to wait through the playoff for the right guy?
We don't have an actual timeline. We are aware of those dates. December 3rd is the signing date. I think Frank Wilson has done a great job of holding this together and putting us in the right position. We haven't lost any kid on our team yet, talking about getting in the portal or leaving or transferring. And we hadn't lost anybody, any recruits yet in one of the top recruiting classes. So, yeah, that signing date, December 3rd, is coming up quickly. We hopefully be around that time, know kind of what direction we're going and who we have. And the next part is the portal from January 2nd to the 16th. So that's things that we're staying focused on and paying a lot of attention to, but that will play a part of this coaching hire.
So in theory, like if there were a coach, again, this is hypothetical, if there were a coach who made the playoffs and was coaching beyond January 1st, that wouldn't necessarily eliminate them from consideration?
No, it would not.
So think of it in those terms, right? A few things. You could be waiting potentially for that guy. You could have a handshake agreement until their season ends, and then you could hire them away. Weird scenario would be they leave their team after earning a playoff berth. I know that sounds wild, but could be a possibility. But the timeline matters. The qualifications, the prerequisites matter. And Verge Ausberry gave you a lot of insight there into what LSU is looking for in a new head coach. Of course, we'll follow it all the way along. Hey, thanks so much for making us your first listen here every single day. If you're listening on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Thanks for being there on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network as well. And let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked on LSU. It's your team every day.